bit the apple.
Who pointed to the apple and said, "This is the one"?
Do you ever think about where you were when the apple was picked?
Yeah, when's the apple's birthday? Did they celebrate it?
Did you?
Should we celebrate it?
We could.
Good.
Who planted the tree that held the apple? How tall were they? Did they pick it too?
What happens to all the other apples in the orchard where the apple was picked? Are they also apples? Or was it just one tree, do you think?
Yeah, like what variety of apple was the apple?
Was it like a new breed?
Yeah.
Is there only one of it?
Yeah, like could I buy no, what's the word?
A variety.
Not a variety, but like the child of.
Right. The descendant.
A descendant. That's the word. Of the apple. Or does that
did they plant the seeds from the apple?
Do you think they have them stored somewhere?
In like a bank.
Yeah, or like
seed bank.
Or like in the archives of the museum. Like, should we have these out for people to see? In the Apple store, maybe?
No. I was wondering if there's an Apple museum, and if so, do they talk about the apple?
Yeah, I mean, do you think they have... What I'm thinking is the Apple store has the Apple archives of the apple all ready to make the Apple museum exhibit. Like, they're ready.
They're poised.
They're, like, thinking it's going to happen. What color is the apple, though? Was it created from a still or from a photo or from life? Like, were they looking at the apple? Was it drawn?
Yeah, who took the bite out of it? Did they just make that up?
Was someone upset about that? Like, was that supposed to happen? How would you feel if you took a bite out of something you weren't supposed to?
I wonder in this hypothetical apple museum, do they have apples there that you can buy or that you can try?
Yeah, and if
or is it too precious?
The apple.
Would they not want that to happen?
Well, I feel like they'd be really expensive. Like, I don't think they'd be free, right? Because they probably are like, we have to find the apples that are worthy of being in the vicinity of the apple. And then that's like a limited supply and a higher demand. So
yeah, no ugly apples.
No ugly. And but see, like, is it a green apple or a red apple? Like, what's the ideal for those other apples to live up to?
And I wonder how they chose the like. I guess it's like kind of white gray, the apple that we know. How did they choose that color?
Yeah, like was it the inside flesh? No, you wouldn't call it the flesh, the meat.
Yeah, I think it's the flesh.
With the,
Apple.
oh, there's the skin and the flesh.
Yeah.
The body and the flesh. Is that Audre Lorde? No. Okay. And like if the apple hadn't been a bite taken out of it, what would they have done with it instead? Like,
do you think they make like apple cider out of the the other apples?
Do you think it maybe like as a celebratory
apple sauce?
Apple sauce. I feel like I can imagine men standing around drinking apple cider.
Yeah.
With like a spike of whiskey. Some whiskey in there, right? Whiskey cider. That doesn't
Does
sound
apple
bad.
also make the whiskey?
Like
does it matter?
Does the apple make the whiskey?
Does Apple TM make the Apple the brand make the whiskey?
Well, if they don't, who would they? Do they partner
how
with
they choose
someone?
it?
Yeah. Like I don't think they'd, because they still are trying to appeal to the mass consumer. So I feel like it wouldn't be a super crazy whiskey, but not rail. But that's besides. What if I were to hold the apple, would I be able to?
Do you think it still exists, the original apple?
No.
Do you think they preserved it?
I feel like they didn't think to, which kind of sucks. You know?
Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah. Or maybe they did, and that's kind of weird. Like, what if someone was like, this apple needs to be preserved for one day when we.
If we ever need to photograph it again, or draw it again, or.
Yeah.
For like a redesign of the apple.
Right. They need the.
They need the original source material.
Mm-hmm. The original object, the ultimate object of the apple. What's the master prop? Do you think that if they couldn't, do you think when they were selecting the apple, was it about, because imagining this tree was a pretty strong tree already with some strong contenders.
It's a big strong tree.
Yeah, big strong tree with some strong apples to choose from. Do you think their priority was, do you think they were like proximity? Like how hard is it to obtain this apple? Or was it purely look, so they were like, we will get to the apple any way we can?
Yeah, what's that saying about like the apples at the top of the tree? It's like a relationship metaphor.
There is something like that, and I haven't heard it in a really long time.
Yeah, but it's like the rotten apples rot, but then you climb to the top, the best ones.
But see, that makes no sense because you'd think all the rotten ones would be at the top because they've been up there so long. That doesn't make any sense.
Or
because all the ones at the bottom, they keep getting picked. It's like, but see, the thing is, what should happen is.
I feel like what the metaphor is trying to say is that men are more likely to pick the apples at the bottom of the tree. So maybe the apple's an apple from the bottom of the tree.
Oh, we don't even know. Yeah, and who picked the apple? Was it a man? The ultimate question. And if we consider the answer to be yes, then what you're saying is say they didn't reach the full potential of that tree. Whereas, like, if it wasn't a man and the male gaze was not upon that tree, and that tree spoke for itself, maybe what could have happened is
maybe
the tree
could have picked the apple.
What if the tree dropped the apple? You know, like aren't you not supposed to actually pluck? No.
No, you are.
You can. You should.
Yeah.
You are.
I feel like people don't want to pick the apples that are already fallen.
Maybe that is the case.
I think we're giving this tree a lot of autonomy.
Yeah, should we?
I hope it's realistic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you asked earlier, did they plant the tree knowing that it was going to be the tree that the apple?
Yeah, what do you
Grew on.
think?
I feel like it's hard to plan for that kind of thing. It also would take a lot of foresight.
Yeah.
But I feel like Apple has foresight. Like, they release a lot of products and they have to plan for that. So I feel like they could plant a tree knowing that, and however many years it was going to yield the apple.
How'd they decide the apple would be an apple?
Yeah, why not like a representation or a concept of an apple instead of like the image of an apple itself?
Yeah. Like, and also just like the ephemeral nature of food. To an extent. Or our experience of
Like,
it.
that's what draws us to it.
Maybe. Well,
It
maybe
humanizes.
it humanizes a
Apple.
product. Yeah.
The apple humanizes Apple.
Yeah. And it makes us feel more comfortable when it's disposed
But
of.
I also feel like when I look at the apple, I want more from it, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
That's why we're having this conversation. We're not getting enough from the apple. There's so much that's unknown about it.
Yeah.
That silhouette with the bite out of it, you don't get from that.
Yeah, and I feel like it's something that people have conversations about.
Yeah.
That circle around the apple without actually naming it. And I think that's a problem. Don't you agree? Don't you think so? I think it's like all these
definitely
like people will like circle
these,
around
like, conferences,
these meetings.
They're like, here's the iPhone 10 and the apple's right there, but
it's seriously, it's literally like people are holding it in their hands and touching it, and it's around.
Don't know what it is.
It's not talked about, and I think that's a problem. So I just want to know like what it tasted like. I want to know what it looks like. I want to know
its name.
I want to give it that autonomy to have a name.
And do you think we can visit the tree? Do they let people visit the tree?
Do you think it's in like if they do, is it seasonal? Like if it's public, could we only go there like now? Is this apple season? Apple season? Should Apple release products in apple season? Do they?
See, I feel like that's kind of like untapped potential for them.
Yeah.
The autumnal
Nature
marketing angle of their products.
And everyone loves fall.
Because like that's the whole, yes, everyone does love fall. And their whole thing is that like here's an iPhone and it's new, even though it's like not that new. And I feel like fall
and it's routine.
Fall objects and concepts and smells are also like it's new, but you like kind of know that's gonna happen every year.
Yeah, yeah, but when it's coming there, it's so like that comfort.
Yeah,
there's a comfort to it, and it's there's a desire for it, and then it'll be there, and it's not, and it's like they already do that. You're saying like they already do that. And to associate,
they just need to get more specific.
And to associate a product with like a season that's so close to your heart, where you just feel like the thing about fall is that you just feel comfortable.
Yeah, you just like want to be warm.
Yeah, you want to be warm, but also like you're not hot, and you feel like I feel like it's the closest we can feel to just feeling fully ourselves. And so when we're in that, we're really vulnerable. And so a product can be really
A product
gain
can
a
really
lot.
add to that.
Yeah, it can add to that and also manipulate that. And I don't understand why they don't do that.
Yeah, I wonder if they could like change the apple with the seasons. You know, if they really got into the seasonal marketing thing, like would it look? And now we're going back into this like redesign thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do we think that's necessary, or is it more important that people recognize
like
the
the
like quintessential apple?
Okay. No, I think the marketing, not just seasonally, but like in all senses of how we experience an apple, like that's generational too. Like we have apple juice. I think apple juice is cool, but like we have to admit that that's for juice boxes for kids.
And you know what's interesting? I bet without even thinking about it, we've already seen the apple change from the very first Apple products to the newest ones. I bet there have been variations.
Do you think that's what I'm wondering? Because I actually haven't before. When we were talking about this, I didn't do my research into that. I thought about doing some research and I just didn't.
I'm glad. I feel like this is raw.
Yeah.
Without it.
I'm glad I'm not prepared.
Yeah. Wait. Do you think when with these like variations of the apple over the generations, do you think they still reference the original, or do you think it? Because we don't know if they kept it.
Well, yeah, because it's like debt. Like when they calculate debt, do they calculate it off the original amount borrowed or the interest as it collects every month? Do you know this? So like, are they relating it back to the original Apple?
Right.
Or is it the one
as
prior?
It begins to change.
Yeah, so is it like, okay, here's the iPhone 7.
Hard.
Is this the Apple, or we're going to look at the Apple for the iPhone 6
or
the
iPhone
Apple from like 2008
Apple.
or whatever?
It's hard to say.
Yeah, it makes me really upset.
It makes me want to look at more apples. But also, I don't feel like I need to.
It makes me feel really angry that like people who look at them all day just don't.
You think that you know the apple, but you really don't. Like, can you really picture it in your mind right now?
Not well. And the thing is, like, it makes it so distracting. What if it's mirror? You know, sometimes they're mirror, and it's like, look, I can see my face in the apple, which is a really
you're not
weird
idea.
To the
apple.
You're not paying attention to it, and it's also just like bizarre how you like are projecting yourself. It's just so strange.
Yeah, why does the apple have to be about us?
I mean, I understand that. I feel like that is a really unique or like strong tool where they're like, you are in this product. Mm-hmm. This is your product. You know? And then also is like when that mirror gets scratched, you're like, damn, where'd it go? And so then it's like, let's get this new one. Yes, okay, here I am again. But what's the difference is like, what if they just had a mirror, a circle? It's a disguise. Either way, it's not fully you.
Like
it's not fully the apple.
An apple mirror versus the apple.
Yeah.
Which is mirrored.
Yes.
And maybe one's more responsible than the other?
You mean like, as in they take more responsibility? Or they're like more
the mirror takes more
mature about the whole situation?
I feel like the apple's pretty mature.
I agree.
They give it the illusion of that at least. And I think that's important for making people feel like they want it.
Well, do you think the apple I feel like the apple has lost some autonomy throughout this process. I feel like the apple at one point held as much stakes in the company as like Steve Jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they were collaborators almost.
Yeah, but then you're right, and then it wasn't really given an opportunity to grow beyond that. Like, it wasn't able to how do I say this? Like it's like it didn't get to. It wasn't given like a childhood. It wasn't given a chance to like grow and become what it is. It just always was.
Yeah.
Or at least that's like the illusion that they're trying to give.
Do you think the apple was premature?
I hope not.
It would fall in line with like a lot of the different like what we see in our marketing. Like it's like
harvesting something before it's ready.
Yeah, and like pedophilic. And so like to have a product like have a premature like let's like admire this young apple.
Yeah.
It's really fucked.
Yeah, men do pick apples that aren't supposed to be picked. I've seen it.
See, yeah, right? And that's the thing is when I said the apple that's dropped, I think more what it is you have to someone
makes it drop.
Well, they make it drop, but also you have to pull it where it wants you to twist it slightly.
Right.
Rather than jerk. But you know men jerk.
We know this.
Yeah.
They're coming for them.
Something went wrong.
They're on their way.
It was done by a man. So
I feel like a lot about, now that I'm thinking about it, a lot about the way the apple's presented probably says a lot about the way that it was picked. And that the fact that it like either wasn't picked when it was ripe, or it was dropped, or it was jerked.
Are they even supposed to have a stem when you pick them?
Does the apple have a stem?
I don't want to look. It has a leaf.
Can it have a leaf if it doesn't have a stem?
See, that's
maybe the stem's so short that we can't see it.
Do you think designing it was like them being like artistic liberties or them being men?
I feel like men do take artistic liberties, like to their detriment.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like artistic liberties is maybe a problematic concept that needs to be revealed.
Yeah. Within marketing.
To an extent. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's like making things seem new and different when they aren't, and like obscuring their origin and their history.
Saying something someone has already said.
Yeah, and like pretending it's different, but it's not. It's not. That's what it's sad.
I mean, do you feel like you've learned anything? Just through talking through this? I mean, do you feel better? I don't know if I feel any better.
I feel more empathetic towards the apple, I think. Like the fact that I feel like we've brought up a lot of kind of questions around it that you don't assume that there are questions around it when you see it. You know, you see it as this kind of like monolithic thing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you don't even assume that there was a bite taken out of it. Maybe you think that it was always that way, but like, of course it wasn't always that way. Someone had to do it.
Mm-hmm. Like most things, I feel like people see it where it's like clearly an action has been performed, but you don't recognize that has happened from the way we just like, I don't know, it's like not permanence, but we like love just regularity and like consistency and thinking that things are expected and that things have been consistent, especially when they aren't a problem to us. It's like, this has been this way and I hope it continues and I hope it has been this way before. And so to like sort of like ask the question like, but what if this wasn't always this way? And what if this prior existence of the apple was a better experience for it, and now we are just
Then what?
dismissing
the
that.
one that's presented to us.
The one that's
now
presented to us.
consume.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yeah. Glad we started the conversation. Thanks.